Alright, let's take a brief look here at some memorization techniques. These are pretty powerful techniques. The first thing, the most important technique to master is actually going to be the pyramid. Yes, indeed, the pyramid. Look at this. It's like my logo. The pyramid. Yeah, I'm rendering the next video there. There's the pyramid. Isn't it beautiful? So, what's the pyramid all about? The pyramid is the best counter to repetition frequency. So, remember that what happens in repetition frequency is we are heavily skewed towards A, and, well, we have no E's. Well, what do you think the best way to counter that is? To simply play only one A and a lot more E's. Well, here's how this kind of works. So you play part A, you learn part A, you memorize part A. Once you got part A down, you're going to play it a few times. You play part A a few times. Then you get part B down. Okay, you're going to focus on part B. You're going to get part B down. Then next part, you're going to play A and B together. Okay, now you play A and B together. A and B, A and B, and B. Play that a few times. Now, you move forward. You're going to play C now only C. And you focus on part C. You focus on part C. Focus on part C. You step one step back. You play the B now. B, B, C. You play B, C. You play B, C. And then you step one back further. A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. See how this starts working? So you start with the D, C, D, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Now you've played D 4 times, C 3 times, B. Look at how many times you started to play all these notes. The frequency actually becomes really, really nice here. Here in this final piece, we're playing E, D, E, C, D, E, B, C, D, E, and A, B, C, D. Let's count the A's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 A's. How many B's do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. C's? 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the D, we have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Here's the 5 E's. So, remember repetition frequency. What do our memories like to remember? They like to remember the beginning and the end. So, if we remember the beginning and the end really easily, well, it goes to assume that we should play that a little bit less times. So, A 5 times and E 5 times. Okay. And what about the middle? Remember, the middle is the most difficult part. And remember how it's really hard to sort of start in the middle? Because you're supposed to, it's really hard to start in the middle, right? You kind of like need to do it all the way through. It's really hard to just kind of start right there. It's kind of hard to do that. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're practicing the ability to start in the middle. And we're just starting from the middle. We're starting from the end. We're starting from, over here. So now we're starting from these middle sections, and we're developing a real memory, a real deep understanding of the middle sections, and especially the centerpiece right here. This is where the most difficult part is in the middle, so we focus all of our attention in there. First part's really easy. The middle's going to be hard, and the ending's really easy. That's just kind of how our minds work. So the pyramid method counters that. It's so beautiful. All right, let's take a look at some of these other ones. So the insertion is going to be, so you got part 1 is going to be easy, and part 2 is going to be really hard. So you're focusing on part 2, part 2, part 2, part 2, part 2, and then you're just going to play part 1. Okay, and you do it again. Part 2, part 2, part 2, part 1. Part 2, part 2, part 2, part 1. So now you're kind of focusing on the really hard part, and you're inserting that easy part into it. And then maybe so you insert the easy part into this. You could also do it backwards, part 1, part 2, part 2, part 2. It really doesn't matter there. Let's take a look at flipping. We'll come back to quilting a little later. Flipping, so it's a little different than the insertion method. The insertion method is trying to weigh one side more than the other side, because the side's harder to practice, so you're going to practice that more, and this side's easier to practice, so you're going to practice that less. So you're trying to insert that. Now the flipping method is when you kind of want to do both about the same. So you do part 1 a few times, part 2 a few times, part 1 a few times, part 2 a few times, part 1, part 2, part 2, part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2. So this one's going to be the easiest because it allows you to really get down each part individually and then transition. So you kind of like master each section. Okay, now we got it. Then we switch over, master it. And then we go over. Okay, now we got it. Okay, and then this one here is a little harder because now you don't really have as much time, so you do it once or twice, and it's like, wait, well, now we gotta switch once or twice. Okay, now you gotta switch once or twice. And here, it's like, we gotta instantly transition, so it's like, bam, 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 bam. It's like slalom with you when you're like skiing, you know. So, this is the flipping method. Let's head into the order of endings over here, the endings. You might have different endings that are difficult, maybe some different variations, maybe you can't remember the order of endings, and so that's why we practice the order of endings. We put N1, N2, N3, and 4, and we kind of use the same type of method we did with flipping, where we balance it out. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. We should also try to do this backwards and forwards. It's very good to learn how to do things backwards, because when you learn it backwards, you know backwards and forwards. Forwards and backwards, right? And so you're gonna really know it much, much better. That's just what mastery is in music. Like, you gotta memorize stuff, you gotta master stuff, you gotta get it down perfectly, you gotta do it a bunch of times. It's repetition. It's, you know, it's just kind of the way it is. But hey, isn't that kind of like what grinding is in video games? Like, you like to play video games, I'll bet. You've probably played video games before in your life, and that's just kind of how you do it. You gotta go kill some more monsters, get some more experience, get some more gold. You just gotta keep keep doing it. You just kill some more monsters, get some more experience, and get some more gold. Just get some more equipment, just do some stuff. You just gotta keep getting some skills and gaining levels and gaining skills and gaining levels. And the only way you can do that is to keep grinding. You go back out in the forest, you go kill the boars, you go kill the bears, you go kill the you go keep getting killing those monsters, getting the experience, and getting the gold. And that's exactly how we do it in guitar playing as well. Alright, so let's take a look at quilting. Quilting is a very powerful technique. Very powerful, because we have our mistake. You have a little mistake that you're making. And what you want to do is just play the mistake. Here's a very, very, very big problem that people have. Remember about the repetition frequency. They tend to practice the part before the mistake, not the actual mistake. And I'll actually write that in here. Don't practice the part before the mistake. Practice the mistake. Okay. Yeah, so this is really important. Don't practice the part before the mistake. Practice the mistake. Get the mistake down. Get that down. Fix it. And then, once you've gotten the mistake down, then you add a few notes before. And then you play the mistake again. And then you play a few notes after it. No longer it should no longer be a mistake at this point. But, yeah. The point is that you're going to be doing the intro, and then you're going to play that part, and then you're going to play the end. And you're going to do this a bunch of times. Okay. So first you get the mistake down, then you kind of put it into context, and then you put it into more context. You add more notes from the pre-intro, and then you got the problem that you're working on, and then you got the ending, and then you got the follow-up after that. So now you sort of put it into context. You're quilting. You're starting from the hole, and you're sort of weaving your way out. You're sort of building this quilt, that sort of patch around that little tear in your quilt. That is the quilting method. Alright, so here's a couple more quick memorization techniques down here about how to use tablature, metronome, speed, and rhythm to your advantage as well. So when you're looking at the tab, you just want to look at a few notes and play them on your guitar, and then memorizing without looking at it, and then repeat a bunch of times. Use the pyramid. Okay, so you don't want to like read the tab. You don't want to like sight read the tab. You don't want to read along. You just want to do a couple notes at a time, and then get it down. Stop looking at it, listen to it, get it down. Okay, and then once you got it memorized, that's it. Now you look at the next section, and you just build your pyramid out like this. What was the pyramid again? You just build your pyramid out. Once you've got part A, this is literally exactly what I'm talking about. You start with part A, you look at the tab. Yeah, okay, you get the tab, right? You play it a few times, and then you look away from the tab. You start practicing it by itself. Now you've got it without the tab. Now, part B. You're going to do the same thing. You look at the tab, you get it with the tab, and now you look away from the tab. You practice with the tab by itself. Now, you go back. And you look at, okay, well, it says part A and B. Okay. Well, maybe you still kind of need to go and look at the tab again one more time for part A and B. If you're going to do that, you're going to look at the tab, and then you're going to come back down and not look at the tab anymore. You're going to play your guitar. You're going to play part A and B, A and B, A and B. You're just going to listen to that. Okay, you got it now. And you're just going to repeat that. Now you play part C. Pull out part C. You just look at the tab. Okay, play with the tab. Okay, I got it. I got it with the tab. Now you look away. You just play without the tab, without the tab, without the tab. Now you played part C without the tab. Okay, now it's time to go back to part B. Okay, let's go back to part B. Well, I might need to do this with the tab a little bit. Okay, part B and then part C. Okay, with the tab. Okay, now I'm going to look away and I'm not going to do it with the tab. I'm going to play part B and C, part B and C, part B and C. Okay, now I'm good. Now I'm going to look back and I'm going to hear, okay, well, it says A, B, and C. Okay, so now I have to add A, B, and C. Let's try to get it. A, B, C, A, B, C. Okay, so that's how you want to be doing this. It seems like it's a lot of work, right? It seems like it's like this arduous process that you kind of have to go through, but it's actually like the fastest way. Like you just see, like it's instantly. There's no skip steps. You're gonna go from here straight to here, and you're gonna get this, and it's gonna be really nice. So yeah, that's how you kind of use the tab and the pyramid. The next thing is the metronome. So first you want to do it without the metronome, right? So that you can do it, you're just focusing on getting the notes right, getting the sound right, it sounds okay. You know, the rhythm doesn't matter right now, it doesn't matter. And then once you kind of get the thing memorized, you can play it a few times without the metronome, then you start putting on the metronome, which is basically the backing track. It's the same thing, the metronome, the backing track, you know, whatever. You just put on the thing that you're going to play along with, and then you start playing it. But you start slow, okay? You got to start slow, and that's where the speeds come into play over here. When you're looking through the speeds, right? The speeds are really important. The slow speeds are going to allow you to play clean, okay? Because you can play it slowly, you're going to play it clean, you're going to play it right, it's without mistakes, right? But as you start to speed it up, the fast speeds challenge your processing power. What that means is a faster pace is like you're going to have to keep up with your mind. You're going to have to keep up with your fingers. It's just like your processing power. Like how fast can you process the information coming at you? That's kind of what your speed is really all about, is processing faster information. Okay, it's not necessarily about moving your fingers faster. It's about your processing power. Okay, so yeah, the final piece here is the rhythm. Okay, this is a really powerful tool to help you memorize as well, because a lot of students will tend to kind of just play the notes and without really thinking about like the rhythm, but that's not really so good. You really want to get the rhythm as you're learning these sections. You want to get it to like be like really in time, like that. You want to just like gauge that if you do this, like it's gonna be like training like a soldier, because you're just consistent. It's like, and it really allows you to gauge your accuracy, because you know if I miss one of these snaps, if I stop snapping, like if I do that, you can hear that it was sort of a little hiccup in there, right? So this is kind of how most guitar players tend to play. It's kind of like this really crazy thing. So in order to get that to stop, you just kind of slow yourself down. Okay, so now you start playing a little slower, and now you start to train like a soldier. It's consistent, right? This is how you do it, man. You just have to train consistently with rhythm. And when you do it that way, you're going to gauge your accuracy much better, because you're going to know, did it right, did it right, did it right, did it right, did it right. You do it the same way, did it the same way, the same way, the same way, the same way, the same way. When you do it that way, it's really easy to play, because you're doing it the same way every time. And what happens if you don't do it the same way every time? You're not using the same fingers, you're not using the same rhythm. Well, guess what? You're learning new stuff, because you're playing new stuff. You're using different fingers, you're playing it a different way. You're learning a new song. It's basically like learning an entirely new song. It's a new brain pathway that you have to create, a new idea that you have to sort of travel down that pathway of thought into this new idea, because you're using different fingers, a different way to play it. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's gonna be so hard to remember. Do you remember what I was doing with the rhythm? I was just, you know, it was the same. It was the same. It was the same. It's so easy. Why do you think that you hear catchy music, right? And you remember something. You like, oh, I heard that before. Oh, I know what that sounds like. It's because you've heard it a million times, because it's been drilled into you rhythmically. You know the rhythm. Okay? So use these tools to your advantage, and they're going to be affecting you whether or not whether or not you're aware of them. So, the repetition frequency, this stuff is going to affect you whether or not you're aware of it. These memory techniques, well, these things here, they're going to affect you. And you just want to use these techniques. They're really powerful. And in the next section, we're going to take a look at the musical senses. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson.